call this meeting to order. Pledge allegiance, led by Ryan Crush, the great bear hunter.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, please silence your cell phones. Is there a motion on approving the agenda?
I think there's an amendment.
Oh,
We have, Mr. Chair, we have one addition. It would be to add to the consent agenda, appointment of David Anderson to the HRA for another term.
okay.
Move the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes. Now, the consent agenda,
Move the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Public appearances. Anyone want to make public appearances? Come on up. Please state your name, address, and tell us what you want to talk about. Up to
My
3
name is
minutes.
Ron Gruber.
Take the mask off.
You can,
Okay. My name is Ron Gruber. I live on Nicollet County Road 21, east of Highway 1415. I've been to Environmental Services many times. Every time
Oh.
my road is getting washed out.
Ron, you're supposed to give your address.
Oh,
And actually, I think you live west of the,
60918 County Road 21.
for the record.
Okay, that's fine.
But actually, I think you're west of 14.
Pardon me?
You're west of 14.
Yes, yes, west of Highway 1415. And I guess I've been here before because of all the traffic, because of the new bridge going into New Ulm, but that's not the problem. I've lived there since 1969. I built my house. And I've done everything that the county has asked me to do. All my buildings, 2004, I built a pole shed, and I paid, it was $300 to $500 for a special hearing, and they were all concerned about water going down. I put all my rain troughs in tile, so the water goes to the ditch. Not a problem. I got rocks and stuff, so it doesn't wash anything out. Well, above me on Valley Hills Drive, which is directly above me, the original owner that built this house was a David Lipke. I don't know the first name.
David. Lipke's my
David,
son.
excuse me. David Weibel was his name, okay? And never had a problem when he was there. Well, he sold that house about 2-3 years ago, maybe. I don't know the first name of the guy, but the last name is Bernick, and if that tells you something. But anyway, ever since that guy moved in there, I called Environmental Services, this is 2 years ago or whenever. All of a sudden, I'm hearing chainsaws and bobcats and going on. What's not going on up there? Well, I drove up and just looked out of my pickup and looking down what's happening. They were digging out the back of their house to put a patio down there in this ravine. And ever since then, I've had nothing but problem. This is the 6th time this year that my driveway has washed out on the side. And I've got pictures to show you what it looks like. And it was within 2 weeks apart. On 8/22 of this year, it washed out, 9/6. And hey, 1.5 inches of rain should not cause that. And it never did. But ever since this guy bought that place up there, it's got nothing but problems. Well, I've talked to Environmental Services. They went out there and says, "Oh, there's nothing wrong." Well, there is something wrong, because I've got pictures here to prove it. And it washes out, comes down the hill, over to my retaining wall, mud down on my apron in front of my garage. My catch basin fills up with dirt, And, but I've got a catch basin, all my rain troughs and my buildings go in their tile and down the road. Water, but not mud and gravel. Now, every time I have to move it up. Then, I was just down here 2 weeks ago, gave one of these sets of records to Environmental Service. And I also went to the real estate tax lady. Well, now they tell me I want to put a gutter in there, okay? So it doesn't take out my driveway all the time. And, well, now they tell me I'm gonna raise my real estate tax $300 a year because I'm putting some concrete in. I don't know what's going on. Anybody want to look at these pictures?
What do we do with that, Ryan? Leave a couple here, or?
Do you mind leaving some here?
I can
We
leave
can
you a
get 'em
copy
back
of
to you.
each one.
Yeah, we could either make copies, or if you
No,
wanna leave them here.
I made, especially was yesterday to get, let's see.
That's something we could talk about at the workshop?
We can put it on a workshop agenda.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask?
Yes.
Is this problem originating to your north, or what direction is it coming from?
What direction from your house is
Well,
this
it would
other
be
house?
straight up the hill, I would say north.
North or northwest?
North or-
North or northeast?
Northeast, yeah. It's a ravine. And I'll just give you a little clue. When I built my house to here, my stepfather owned the land, it was pasture, okay? And somebody came along and says, well, you're too close to the floodplain. Well, about 3/4 of a mile east of me, there's a creek that runs through there. And they at first didn't want to give me a building permit because I'm too close to a water. Well, I'll tell you what, if my house goes underwater, the 3M plant in New Ulm is going to be totally underwater. So that's, people look at a map. You can't look at a map, you got to look what's there. But irregardless, that's neither here nor there. It got resolved, and that's the thing. Anyway, I've got, let's see here.
I think we must be pretty close to the 3 minutes, so.
This is from 8/22, and this is from 9/6.
Okay, you want these back, or?
Now you can have them. I've got a set for myself. Environmental Services got the one from 8/22.
So Ron, I did have a chat with Bridget. Maybe you should have a chat with her before you leave. Bridget in the assessor's office.
Yes, I was over there, and that's what they told me.
You were there this morning?
Pardon me?
You were there this morning?
No, that's a couple weeks
Wait,
ago.
you should stop
After
again.
this 8/22
You
episode.
should stop again. It might be a little different story than what you thought.
Okay,
'Cause
Well, I mean,
I did a
it's-
little homework.
okay, well, I appreciate that. Because it's just been, this summer already, this is the sixth time that I've had to put my driveway up. And if the gravel washes down on the county road, I clean it up. The county has not had to come by and clean it up. Which, that's fine, but something's gotta be done. And so far, I haven't got any results in the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, well, we'll put it on the workshop agenda. Thank you
Okay.
for coming.
All right,
And
very
like I
good.
say,
Thank
stop
you.
back there before you leave. Bridget.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Beth?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Cassie, you have some items for us today?
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning.
So my first item on the agenda was an update on our COVID-19 situation, specifically around 2 areas, our contact tracing as well as our CARES programs. As of yesterday, we had 457 total cases, 15 deaths and 2 current hospitalizations. No significant trends to discuss this morning. Nothing major has shifted in recent weeks. What I really wanted to start talking about this morning is contact tracing. With our regular increases in cases, and this being a 7-day per week responsibility, our case investigation and contact tracing team has really been struggling to keep up. So for the month of September, we have opted out of weekend coverage, and the Minnesota Department of Health is able to cover that for the weekends just for this month. Moving ahead, we won't be able to have that choice because we will be moving into either a regional model or needing to opt out of the regional model and continue contact tracing on our own. So the major discussion for us will be deciding which of those options we would like to take. Once a regional model goes into effect, this will be run by a private sector with additional employees added. So what we would be doing is opting into the regional model, providing case investigation and contact tracing throughout the region on the days that we are assigned. We would have priority for our cases on the days we are assigned. Other public health agencies would take pieces of our cases as well, and those schedules that can't be filled would go to employees hired by this private entity. Some pros and cons related to all of that I wanted to be able to share with you all as we need to make a decision about this likely in the upcoming week. The pros of a regional model would be that we would get $50 an hour of reimbursement for any time that we are scheduling our staff members. However, this contract is only through December, so we aren't sure yet what that would look like in the long term. We would have more assistance with weekend coverage because there would be a variety of people involved. We would have additional support if there was a spike in our cases, and we would still have access to our line list no matter who completes the interview. Some significant cons for us are that the shift hours are 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., which don't really fit very well with the shifts that our staff members currently work. We're a little bit worried about the transition. It's a new system. The phones would actually shift to Amazon Connect, so lots of different programs that we aren't currently using. MDH follow-up times for interviews has been lagging. So there have been numerous times where it's been a week or more out before somebody's contacted on the days that MDH is making those contacts. For other counties, it's been more than 15 days before those calls are made. So we're worried about potentially losing any opportunity that we have to mitigate spread by having people choose to stay home or notifying people that they've been in contact with. One that we're hoping could be solved either way, but we're not sure at this point, is that all calls go into a call bank when we go into the regional model using that Amazon Connect. There is no local number or local contact. So we would, of course, do our best to push out our local information and try to have that relationship. But we do see that as one of our biggest strengths right now, that we are able to take callbacks, and some cases will call us back 5 times to ask, what about in this situation, or I thought of this, now what should I do? We also would have the potential for, I guess, fewer resources to be provided when the calls might be made by another county versus us, because we do know what's happening in our area. One set of opportunities that we might have if we chose to opt out of the regional model would be to partner with Brown County. Originally, we'd been hoping that we could be in the regional model and partner with Brown County because CHBs were sort of given that choice early on. However, it looks like Brown County is opting out of the model entirely and planning to do it on their own right now, as is Faribault Martin. So in talking with Karen, if we went on our own, it's possible that we could partner with Brown County. So during the week, we would take all of our own cases, and on the weekends, we could pool our staff together so that we would have a rotation to cover all of the weekends. We're following up this week because we would like to know that if we did choose to opt out of the regional model, while we have CARES funding available for reimbursement right now, that we would have that opportunity to jump in maybe in their next contract cycle if we realized it was something that we would have preferred to do. So hopefully we have more information on that. I believe either today or tomorrow there are a couple of Q&A sessions being offered. We would be able to, I think, find some additional staff members internally as well who we could put into a weekend rotation if it wasn't every weekend that we're looking at currently. So I wanted to put that out there. I think the more that we've talked with Brown County about the potential of partnering, I think the more our team is leaning towards wanting to partner with Brown County and opt out of the regional model. I think the biggest concern with that is, of course, we would be declining that $50 per hour reimbursement that goes along with it. But I think we would be increasing our ability to continue mitigating spread. So any questions or opinions that to
Well,
be
if
shared
we-
on that?
If we went with Brown County, we could still get some CARES money for the couple months.
So we can use CARES money till December first.
Right.
The
Totally
piece
done.
with opting out is the $50 would be available December first for us to use if we were in the regional model. With Brown County, it would not be, correct?
The contracts end though December 1st
Oh.
as well, or through
For the
into
private
December for
provider.
the, so we're not sure if they were
We don't know
leveraging
what it
CARES
will look like
dollars.
after December.
Yeah, that's what we don't know. We anticipated that the contract would come out and it would be maybe a year in length or
Right.
all of 2021. But with it ending in December, it worries us that we don't know what it looks like or if that ends once CARES funding ends for them as well.
That must be funded with CARES dollars as well then. So-
I would guess
More
that
questions?
that's how they're running it through.
More questions for Cassie, Terry?
So, actually, it's good for, I think for Ryan, but for either of you. So, we don't know the budget in result, A versus B. Is that, we don't know, because December 1st, we don't know what would happen?
Right, until December, we know that we would get an additional $50 an hour for the staff time that we would provide, that we would be choosing not to receive. After December, we aren't aware of what it
And
would
had,
look like.
had we factored in that $50? We hadn't in the budget, had we?
No, at this point though, if we forego the $50, it appears we have ample CARES money to
Get us through to
reimburse
December
us
date.
regardless.
Yeah.
So, we're covered till December 1st either way, basically.
If I may, Mr.
Well,
Chair.
Jack had a question.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jack.
Jack, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It sounds to me like you do have more comfort with the Brown County situation. Can you again just tell me why contact tracing is so important and how many people that you would estimate that you'd be tracing?
Sure. So when we're contact tracing, we receive somebody's results shortly after the clinic does. We make contact with them, and sometimes we're the first one telling them that they're positive. Honestly, that's been interesting for us. So we make contact with them, and we talk through what they need to do to stay away from people, what that looks like. We help coordinate any services getting delivered to their home for them so that they can be around as few people as possible. We will then also help contact the people that they have had significant contact with during the time that they would have been infectious, so that if there are other people who need to be staying home or need to be going in to be tested, they find that out early. And then we can also then provide resources to people who might need them. So, I mean, at one potential case, we might contact 2 people because they've had a couple of lengthy interactions. There might be another event in a few cases where people had lengthy appointments all day long, socialized with people, took their test, found out they were positive, and we had 25 people to go back and connect with to let them know that they should isolate for 14 days and be tested. So it really varies by the day, but when we have cases jump up maybe 12 on our record day, that's a lot of circles of people to contact, and a lot of people who, if they chose to follow the guidance, wouldn't spread it to other people within our county.
And if I could just continue
Sure.
on to that point, the clinic isn't letting those people know about who to contact trace. That's the county.
Correct.
Denny?
Describe to me the $50 was only for this next round, assuming that we went into the pool, was $50 only when our people were assigned.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's per person or per
Per
hour?
person, yes.
Per person per hour?
Yes. They said to go into the regional model, we would need to contribute a minimum of 8 hours per week. So we don't know if that means if we gave 5 of our staff members, would they each get 8 hours a week, or would it be spread out and private staff members brought in to cover some of those shifts? We're not sure.
But then that's also another layer of technology and another phone number that we're asking people to participate in, which doesn't come back to the caller.
Right, yes.
And
That's something
that's
that,
been part of that issue, hasn't it?
yes, that's something that they've said that they could work on, and so it's possible that that will be resolved. But right now, it all goes into a call
By
bank.
December 1.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Terry?
Going back to contact tracing following Jack's question. So let's say one of us in this room tested positive. Would we all, I don't know what you say, it depends on the length of exposure, like, would we all be quarantining for 14 days?
If one of you were positive right now,
Yeah.
likely a good chunk, depending on who it was. It's within 6 feet of each other for 15 minutes or more. So if,
Okay.
I mean, there's also what we would call cumulative exposure. So if we're all in the space and there's not a lot of ventilation for a long time, even if it doesn't necessarily meet the standard, we would encourage somebody to isolate for those 14 days just because of the probability.
So we could conceivably find ourselves in a position where all of a sudden we need to do virtual meetings because of contact tracing. Okay.
Yeah, you've noticed I've been still advertising our meetings under statute 13D021,
Right.
just for that purpose, where if one of us does contract it, we may have to go to virtual for all or some of us.
Marie?
Teacher, when we had our Brown Nicollet Executive Committee meeting a week ago, I forgot her name, Brown County.
Karen?
Karen Morris.
Thank you. Who is running this regional partnership? MDH or a private company that MDH hired? Or how are they getting funded?
I'm not sure that we're entirely aware of
We
that.
guess it's state cares money
Yes.
Well,
that MDH got, was the original
I
allocation.
brought up the concept then, they put the cart before the horse and didn't have the technology to run it.
That's-
I don't know about the rest of you, but I've never heard of an Amazon phone system, so
They're IP-based phone systems. There's all sorts of providers that do it.
yeah, well,
The problem is, though, it doesn't call back to the person that made the inquiry, and that's my argument. If you're gonna be efficient and have contact with our residents, we need to be able to support them locally. I think that's, in my view, that's our commitment to them, so.
I'd
You-
be in favor of optimism.
And you would like a decision today, correct?
We will be asked, I believe, on Thursday to provide feedback about whether or not we'll be going into the regional model and how many staff we would be able to provide.
And what happens if nobody opts in?
I'm not sure what they'll do. Maybe it would be more of it couldn't be a regional model. So probably more of the private staff being involved, covering those counties. Because the intention behind it is great, I think, to be able to provide support for when there's peaks. We're very worried about our fall with Gustavus and our schools. Even in this next week following the mass testing, we expect it to be very difficult for us to keep up. So that idea of additional support is helpful, but not if it takes away our ability to connect with people. I think then we
Well, and
lose the whole
timeliness
point.
issue, I think, becomes a real issue for those.
Yes.
Ryan, does this require board action? Or is it just letting the board know?
It could be just a consensus of the board to say, go ahead, Cassie, and don't go with the regional model. If the board wishes to make a motion to make
Think there
it
should
more
be a
more
motion
formal,
to discuss
it could go either way.
I don't know. Maybe I'll defer to Jack, Marie, those who've been on the board for a while. Would we normally vote to approve a decision like this?
Only if it was a joint powers agreement or something similar.
Yeah.
I think the goal of both Nicollet and Brown was to make sure that there were discussions with the board for feedback, because we would be
Right.
declining that reimbursement.
So,
Yeah.
when is Brown County meeting right now?
I'm not sure if they're
sure.
doing it formally through board or not. I think our last contact with Karen was on Friday, and that was her opinion at the time.
Her opinion was we should work together, the two counties.
So, Mr. Chair, I guess I would just I would say, do what you think is best, because there does not appear to be a budgetary impact of significance.
No.
To hit our ratepayers.
Right.
I appreciate knowing, but I don't think it's our
I
decision.
support the concept of doing the best service for our constituency, and I think the only way we're gonna do that is have local contact and have consistency. I know it's more work for your staff, I understand that, but I think we have an obligation for the health and safety of our citizens, and I think that's what we have to do.
Very well.
But, Mr. Chair, the first thing she said to us was, you're struggling to keep up. And you're left with a couple of choices.
Right.
The choices feel like staying close to our neighbors instead of going regional.
Yes.
Correct. And I might just add, a member of our family was close to another 22-year-old a week ago. And so he gets to quarantine until next Thursday. And I don't know for sure who informed him. It might have been Blue Earth County, county where he lives. But the testing and getting the result back on his test was like 4 days. It wasn't like NFL players 15 minutes. That's an issue. That's a big issue. And I don't know that you can solve that, but someone needs to solve that. Because that creates much tension in families when you hear about this person was next to that person who was next to that person.
Right, when it's not a true exposure, but enough that you start to feel like people should be isolating.
Actually, Jack, and I might know my son and daughter-in-law had to go to Burnsville to get a one-day return. That was the closest spot they could find.
And I understand that Mayo is quicker than the clinic in Mankato.
That was kind of a rumor monger. There were some delays, but the Mayo labs are doing the testing from that.
One kid got it back in 24 hours, the other one had to wait 4 days compared to those two facilities, so. But it is real, COVID is real, and we need to put our masks on.
So Jack, do you agree with Cassie's
Absolutely.
recommendation?
And I think you have a good partnership with Brown County, and I think you will find good ways to work that out, and I'm optimistic. And we may have to revisit all of this December 1st. It's just the reality where we are, so
Correct.
I think that's all of us, Marie, isn't it? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple of updates for you on the CARES funding programs that we have used so far. For that CARES Child Care Funding Program, we've had 5 applications submitted. One has been completed and approved. The others are requiring a little bit of additional information. For the CARES Crisis Funding, we have 3 pending applications. For the Health and Safety Supply Program, we have had, I believe, somewhere around 15 organizations apply. Just to name our bigger ones, we've had the St. Peter Community Child Care Center, John Ireland School, Emmanuel Cortland, Trinity Lutheran School, St. Peter Public Schools, Gustavus, St. Peter Lutheran Church, Mankato North Mankato Youth Football Club, Ecumen Sand Prairie, Ecumen Prairie Hill, Feeding Our Community Partners, Chris's Clippers, Minnesota Valley Education District, Uptown Service, Pro Growth Bank, Inspired Portrait Photography, Minnesota School Board Association, and Ryan Burr Drywall this, to date. So we have dispersed approximately $15,000 worth of PPE as of now, and so every Monday we will be reviewing the applications that come in and distributing on Fridays.
Is MVL on that list?
No,
Is that because they're in District 88 and they work with Brown County?
they have not submitted a request to us. So by being in Nicollet County, they could. We just have not received one.
And it sounds like Bree has had a very good track record of tracking down PPE and finding large quantities of it, so.
Yes, we ordered 25,000 masks from a place in Redwood Falls.
Oh, wow.
So Bree's spending much of her time ordering. We had a box of thermometers in one of the buildings missing for a little while. Just the boxes coming in are out of control. But we've got some really good tracking going on to monitor what we're approving for people and what we're giving out, and we're giving guidelines for the use of the items when we distribute them as well. Right now, we're using kind of $1,000 for for-profit agencies as our benchmark, and $2,500 for other organizations, knowing that when we get towards the end of the fall, if we've got additional funds remaining, that we can reach out to try to meet some other gaps that might exist.
More questions for Cassie?
And we're doing a second round right now. Is that up and
Third.
going? Third round? Or third round, okay.
Well, thank you. I guess we're, unless there's anything else you want to add more?
I have one separate topic.
Okay.
So we have a new program that we would like to request approval for using the CARES funding. On the original budget, it was listed as community partner funding because it wasn't defined yet at that point. At this point, we would call it Community Resiliency Program. So the goal of this would be to provide funding for our agencies in the county providing mental health, chemical dependency, and housing services. These are vital services, as we know, and with the pandemic, they have increased, particularly chemical dependency services needs. The idea for us is that some of these agencies are receiving funding for other things, like distributing money to residents in the county, but there are still big gaps that exist for them because of other changes. Some of those might be not getting to meet with people in person, having to create telehealth systems without additional funding, having clients who aren't able to make their payments, all kinds of things that will make it a struggle for these businesses to continue providing the services that we need for our residents. So the purpose of this would be to request proposals or statements from our community partners in these areas, letting us know what their gaps are and what they don't have funding to assist them with. These applicants would need to be located in Nicollet County or be contractually serving Nicollet County residents. On the attachment that was in the board packet, there's a list of preliminary identified community partners. Certainly we would be open to feedback if there are any that you identify are missing from this list. This was a list developed within HHS. The original plan would be to have people submit proposals by October 15th, and then we would review, and based on need and the funding that we have available, we would distribute those funds.
Yes, Terry?
This sounds great. We've been probably all hearing about evictions and housing and the like. I'm trying to make sure I understand the criteria. I'm great with contractually serving Nicollet County residents. So if an entity is outside of Nicollet County and serving one of our residents, great. I'm trying to figure out the reverse. If the organization's in Nicollet County but serving someone outside of Nicollet County, they would be eligible as well, correct?
I think,
Because it says the applicant must be located in the county or be contractually serving Nicollet County residents.
yes. Well, certainly we could think about cleaning up that language. I'd be open to any suggestions you might have on it. When I look at our list, though, of places that we
Yeah.
have, these are all locations that are serving Nicollet County residents
Okay.
as well. But I could certainly add located in and serving with that.
Well, I'd be open to hearing from other board members. So I was thinking, for example, this is not picking on anybody, but Counseling Services in Southern Minnesota, I imagine they're serving people outside of Nicollet County as well.
Yes, correct.
So I'm open to other folks' thoughts on that.
I'm not as concerned because these people need help.
Okay.
This is one way to get it to them.
That's fine. I'm not.
Underserved group, and if they need help and we can help, that's important.
Danny?
I'm with Marie on this, I think, and these are still gonna be evaluated based on the application process. So we're gonna know more about what's going on, I think. So I would support as is. And if that's the case, I would move the resolution attached.
Second.
Is that a second? Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Just one question, what kind of monies are we talking about?
I believe we had 100,000 set aside in the original budget.
So it would be a first come, first served if they qualify or meet standards?
With the deadline of October 15th, we would hope that anybody who's making a request would have it submitted by then, and then we would review to see what the need
Is
is.
there a ceiling to make a request for, or can you ask for 100,000 and just get the whole thing?
I think they could ask, but that won't be the amount distributed, no.
I know we've got limits on those other, commercial issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
5,000-10,000?
We could divide up how many we have,
Yeah.
perhaps.
We haven't finalized the application yet, so that is something we could put in there as a benchmark, or we could see what we get, and if we get well over the $100,000 that we have budgeted, we could come back to the board and see if you're interested in allocating more funds to that, this piece of the pie, so.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but arguably, some of those resources, they'd still be eligible for PPE and other things like that.
Correct,
I mean,
yes.
so it isn't this and only this kind of thing for them, that this is kind of services that are very specific to the needs that they have for, in this case, the mentally ill, or others with dependency issues would
Yes.
make
And I think it's difficult to assign a specific amount. I did reach out to partners early on and just asked if something like this was done, what are your needs looking like? And from one place I received something like, you know, we're doing fairly well. We had to buy iPads and things to provide to clients to connect with them. We don't have a funding source for that and we need assistance there. From another place, we're down $70,000 because our services were all in person and people aren't coming and we're not sure how we're gonna keep going. Very big
Right, big range.
differences, yes.
And Cassie and I reviewed this list, and we feel that most or all of these entities would not qualify for a business assistance program. If they would, I think what we would do is we would not fund them through that program and fund them through this one.
We done? Call the roll.
Cap,
Yes.
Morrow,
Yes.
Lippy,
Yes.
Brown, yes, Miller.
Yes.
Thank you.
More questions for Cassie? Yes, we do.
I had just one, I think I responded to an email that you sent out. Would typically, and the question would be, should we prepare to have the ability to receive vaccine should it become available to us and store it, because that appears to be a long-term issue, because some of this needs pretty significant refrigeration. If indeed what we're being told, the samples that may come out, we may have to store, and they have, some of the reading I've said is anywhere from 24 to 48 hours in thaw mode before the product, and this is vaccines availability. So the issue would be, should we anticipate spending some CARES dollars to acquire the refrigeration necessary? Because it's my understanding a lot of the clinical providers even in the area don't have that level of refrigeration. And would that make sense to have something that we would partner with, i.e. Brown County or Community Health? Would that be something we should consider?
I did respond to you this morning, right
I
before the
haven't read
meeting.
the email, I'm sorry.
No, that is just fine. So MDH is telling us right now that the negative 80-degree requirement would only be in the beginning. So once it's transported to us, they believe that it could just be refrigerated because we would have such a small quantity given to us at a time that it would be used rather quickly. And our freezers go to negative 30 below right now, and that is believed to be adequate. However, I think that it will be something that we do continue to talk to Brown County about, because like you said, if we find out that that has to be the case now, finding a freezer with that capacity is going to be difficult.
Well, and that was my concern, plus
Yes.
the issue, it's my understanding that most of the products are gonna be dual dose. So that means we're gonna have to store some of that, so whatever's gonna happen, how that comes might be a factor, so just putting it on the table, that was my only issue. I'm not asking for an action, but just something to think about,
Yeah.
because I think it's important we're prepared.
So
Absolutely.
one shot and then a month later another shot?
Yes, that's what's being touted right now, but all of these things could change. But the first round of this, the first thing we were being told is it had to be stored at negative 80 degrees Celsius.
Celsius.
Yes, so that's 114 something Fahrenheit. So most of your basement freezers won't go that way.
Especially shells.
So, yeah.
Related to mass vaccinations, Cassie and her staff have purchased a vaccination tent already, one of those
Great.
ones you can drive through.
Yep.
And we're actually contemplating using it for drive-up election ballot drop-off as well.
Well, it's a good way to test everything out, because this is gonna be a long-term thing for us.
And I'll likely be coming with a request to use CARES dollars to purchase a public health command center, i.e. an RV trailer equipped with refrigeration and just various things like that, and then it can also be used in the future for the Sheriff's Department Incident Command Center as well. We do have an older trailer from Hurricane Katrina, but that would not probably be adequate for this situation, so I'll likely be coming this month asking that we go ahead with that purchase as well.
I like preparedness, we gotta be there.
So healthcare workers would be the first ones to get the vaccines?
That I am not sure
I
on.
don't know.
Not necessarily?
We just don't know yet.
No,
Okay.
we assume we will be given very small quantities to start and that
Okay.
priorities will be given to us.
Okay. More questions?
I wouldn't look for a vaccine anytime soon.
politicians are walking it back, so anyhow.
Started in January, and they usually take 18 months for that stuff to happen, which means next June. And they still don't have a vaccine for AIDS, remember that. So we're living it.
Okay.
Cassie, thank you
Yeah,
and your
thank you
staff
very
so
much.
much for everything.
Thank you.
Okay. Seth, you have something for us today?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board and staff. One item for the board's consideration, and then if you guys want a project update, I'd be more than happy to do that
I think we'd like one.
after my item. So the only item I have is to consider MnDOT detour agreement 1044820. MnDOT's dealing with their own disaster projects, and as you have seen in the past, probably in the news and in the papers, there's been several slides on Trunk Highway 68. Their largest slide they had repaired, but with the heavy rains again this summer, they had additional slides on that repair work, so they have to do further repairs. And then they also have an area on 168, a downslope area in a ravine that they also have to do repairs. And to do that repair work, they're gonna have to close a portion of Trunk Highway 68 and sign detour, and so they're requesting to use our County Road 37 and 24. They're estimating the length of that detour would probably be around 45 days. And they have a standard agreement, and the standard way they reimburse counties and cities for detours. And based on those 45 days, the reimbursement to the county would be a little over $1,000. And so in your packet, you do have a copy of the detour agreement along with the resolution that needs to be approved. And then there's also a map showing County Roads 24 and 37. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions on this item.
Seth, do we expect all the work to be done yet this year?
Yeah, they were anticipating that would be done in that time frame.
Assuming that they can't get it done, I mean, God knows what kind of weather we're gonna have for the next 45 days. Could this end up being a permanent detour over the winter, or don't you think that's a likelihood?
I don't think that's very likely unless we have a catastrophic
Well,
wet
I understand
fall
that.
and
I
there's
mean, but
there's
it
more
was-
damage. It sounds like what they have to repair isn't, that extensive that you
Okay.
couldn't, deal with some weather delays during the work, but, yeah. I
And they
think
do
it's
all the
highly
siding on this
unlikely.
anyhow, so we really, other than the wear and tear on the road surfaces, we don't have any other incurred cost, right?
No, nope.
That's all I have.
More questions?
Move it.
Second,
Motion and a second, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think this is a resolution.
Opposed, passes.
Okay, project updates. Let's start with County Road 21 and our bridge project. The repair work to the full depth repair work to the deck has been completed. They've poured both concrete railings. They were waiting for the one railing to cure out. We're waiting for good weather to do the coloration and stain work on the abutments. Once that's complete, Mathewitz will be able to come back in, put the rest of the riprap, and do final grading work. Around the middle of September, it's anticipated that then PCI construction will be coming in to do the mill and overlay on the concrete deck. And so there's some time that's gonna pass yet before this project is open. But I'm hoping sometime in October, probably later October, that we may be able to have this project done and open. County Road 12, the reconstruction project and the grade raise has been going very well so far. They got all their mucking done. It went much quicker than anticipated. The muck was much firmer, and so every time they take a scoop with their excavator, they'd get a nice full bucket, and so that sped that process along very well. They floated their geogrid out, and now they're working on bringing in the larger crushed rock to build that new base for that road. That'll take some time. There's a significant amount of that larger crushed rock to come in. They've also tore apart on the north end of the project, the intersection, and been building turn lanes in the grade there, and I think they've been working past Commissioner Lipke's house
Quite a
some.
lot.
This wet weather does not help us though on that work on the north end. We'll need some drying weather to progress things along there. Moving
So,
on.
Question
yeah.
about that. The rocks they're dumping now are like, what, 6 to 10 inches
They should all be 6 inches or smaller.
or smaller?
Yes.
So I imagine, didn't some road projects, they use big rocks, like around Mankato, around the river and stuff?
That's more on just protecting a bank. This is building
Okay.
a road grade, and we don't want the rocks too big, or else you end up with too many large voids
Oh, okay.
in the rock. And then so
Okay.
to go from the big rock to the smaller rock, you got to try to what we call choke down
Okay.
the size, and then try to fill those voids. And if you got voids that are way too big, you may end up having material that'll just continually trickle over time
Okay.
down into that material, and then you have voids under the road. So
Like a
We-
bucket of apples has more air than a bucket of soybeans.
yep, exactly. So we want to start with a product that's a little bit
Okay.
smaller to put in there initially.
And I did compliment Seth, Mathewitz guys, and Matt from his office. They're really good.
Any other questions on 12, or I'll move on? Let's move to County Road 14. Of course, as I have reported previously, we've increased the scope of that project significantly. Essentially, we're doubling the contract value to take care of the additional slides that have occurred on 14. Gale Tech and SRF have completed the additional revisions to the plan set. That was a huge effort on their part to add that much additional work and revisions to that plan set, but that is completed. Originally, we were to start work today, but with adding all that extra work and all these revisions, Mathewitz needed some time to review that and adjust their game plan. Right now, the plan is to start construction next Monday, and so the road will be closed, and they will start their excavation work. Of course, if the weather is really poor all week, that start date may change. Adding that much additional work, unless we had an unbelievably beautiful fall and probably early winter, more than likely we will not be able to complete this project yet this fall. And so we will get the project to a good stopping point, button the project up for the winter, and then restart in the spring and finish it early next year. Last week, I met with the State Aid Disaster Committee. I had put a request in for the committee to consider State Aid Disaster Account funding to help with this additional cost on County Road 14. We're probably looking at an additional 1.5 to maybe a little bit more than $1.5 million of extra expense on 14. The committee is going to be making a recommendation to the state aid engineer that the state aid disaster account covers our additional cost on 14. So that's very good news for us. At that same meeting, and this meeting took probably 2 hours, we talked about 14. We also talked about the slide issues on County Road 21, and very close to 14, and very good conversation there. And the committee is also going to be recommending state aid disaster account funding to help with the repairs on County Road 21. So between 14 and 21, the committee is supporting almost $4.5 million of disaster account funding to help with those two projects. This week, myself, along with members of MnDOT State Aid, are going to also be meeting with Federal Highway to talk about possible Federal Highway funding for 21. One condition of the State Aid Disaster Committee is that you exhaust all other avenues of revenue sources for these disaster projects. And so Federal Highway is another source that we can tap into. And so we're going to see if we can get Federal Highway funding. So if we would get that, then federal highway funding would supersede the use of state aid disaster account funding. So had a productive week last week and scaring up some funds to help with these disaster projects.
Thank you. Any questions for Seth?
You covered everything.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks,
Mr. Chair, do you want to take your break now, and we come back and do the other items, or do you want to go through them and?
Well, why don't we go up to this next section and then take a break where it says break, and
Sure.
take a couple minutes.
This won't take long, so.
Yeah. So, Chair's report. The budget with the full board, soil and water meeting, and Lower Minnesota Zoom meeting. Terry?
Budget with the board.
Denny?
Budget meeting, the MRCI Executive Committee, Brown Nicollet Community Health Board, AMC Education and Training Committee met, SCEMS Huddle, and I said budget workshop, so. roll
Marie?
play.
Budget workshop, Brown Nicholas Community Health Board Executive Committee and Finance Committee meeting, One Water, One Plan meeting up in Gaylord. And last Friday, I participated in the Friday Family Food FFF distribution up at First Lutheran Church again. We served in excess of 200 families again.
Jack?
Budget meeting, Maple, TDS, and today's county board meeting.
Okay, Ryan, we have meetings and conferences.
You should have all got an email from AMC that the policy committee is staggered over, I believe, 3 days, and so you can register for each portion.
General
on-
government is also.
Yeah, on your own. And then you'll notice on your meeting schedule for October, we do have the annual road tour scheduled. Seth and I discussed, though, it's probably not a good idea to put 10 of us in a van due to the pandemic this year. So we're looking at, rather than driving around, Seth and his staff will be taking photos of projects as that date nears, and we'll have a photo session with the board to review those projects, and then also go up to Public Works and look at some of the equipment they purchased.
I think that's a good idea.
We'll keep it on the same date, though.
Okay. Per diems and expenses,
Move it.
is that a second, Jack? Motion and a second, discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, passes. I'll move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, discussion, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, passes. Come back at 10 o'clock, work with the ditches.
That'll be interesting.
Guess we'll bring the Drainage Authority to order. There's a consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, passes. Okay, public hearing for ditch 30A, County Ditch 30A. There's a cleaning well, wait a second, we can't do this yet, can we?
Yeah, this is for 10 o'clock. I'm sorry, it says 10:30 from the other one, but
So it is 10, so we're
yeah.
good.
Yep,
Okay.
we are good.
So Jackie,
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is a cleaning hearing for County Ditch 30A. Notices were mailed out to all landowners on August 28th. This meeting did not need to be published or posted, so just the landowner notification. So Nate Henry does have the details on the cleaning, so he will present those details now.
okay.
Morning.
Good morning. Let me just organize my papers here. So as Jackie mentioned, I received actually 2 repair requests for cleaning on ditch 30A. One for the very southern end of the project, and then a group of landowners petitioned for another portion of it, and they requested I go and look at the ditch and kind of make a recommendation based off what I see, what should be cleaned and what would serve them, or what would be appropriate for them. So I had handed out a map with comments of what I had found, and basically what the map is indicating is cleaning the main line of the ditch first, and seeing how the branches drain out once that is complete, and if additional landowners want to petition for more cleaning to do their branch or their section, they can do so at that time. This is a very large ditch, so what I have highlighted in green is approximately 12 miles, and it'll take a good fall with nice weather to get all this done this year. So I've made my comments on there, what I found, and that's what the landowners are requesting at this time.
Nate, what is RCP?
Reinforced concrete pipe.
Okay. So are we ready for the landowners' comments then?
Yeah, if there's comments, I suppose.
Step forward and say your name and address and say what you want to say.
My name's Wayne Jurdy. I own land in Section 30,
Yeah, she wants your address.
10820 Goose Lake Parkway North, Champlin, Minnesota, 55316. I just wanted to make a comment. We and my brother Randy are not opposed to the cleaning of the ditch. However, they're looking at cleaning the whole ditch, and we had a major cleaning. Looks like in 2010 we did a fair amount of cleaning in there. What happens, or what will happen, if we clean this whole thing is we'll run a lot of dirt right down to the Minnesota River. And I know Nicollet County has participated in some of the total studies in terms of water that runs into the Minnesota. So there are some problems with the ditch. However, we had 1 8-inch rain this year. The ditch filled up, and 2 days later it went down. So the water is running in the ditch, at least in our section, and down from our section there's some bank slides and some beaver dams. However, the water seems to run through there. So what we would like to see is selective cleaning and fixing of this ditch rather than a wholesale from start to finish in terms of cleaning of the ditch.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I do have a letter from Tim Weibel, 45438 541st Avenue in Cortland. And his comments were, there's a lot of sediment that needs to be removed on County Ditch 30A. It is time to clean and other repairs that need to be done. My wife and I own a tract on County Ditch 30A. Thank you, Tim and Mary Jean Weibel.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Mr. Chair, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
If we do what the gentleman precedingly just talked about, what does that accomplish for all landowners? Or does it just set aside something that might be beneficial to this one?
There's a couple areas that we could spot repair as far as scooping slides out, and a few beaver dams, which would be easy to accomplish, but there's a lot of other areas throughout the system where it's not as simple as just take out a slide here and a slide there. There's large sections that have just standing water, which results in just, because the sediment is in there, so the water can't drain. So rather than cleaning a small area here and there, there's no good place to start and stop because the entire stretch is full of dirt. So in order to drain the land on the bottom end for the original petitioners, we should clean and make sure that water has an outlet from one end to the other. And this other project, or this ditch, was last done around the year of 2006, 8, and 9. And they did a similar project then. They started with the main line, cleaned that out, and then once the main channel or the main ditch was cleaned, then they looked at each branch and determined how it was draining, and subsequently they cleaned majority of it in a few years here. So that's what I'm recommending here is we'll do the main line, see how the branches drain out, and if additional property owners want to petition for that at that time, they can.
And then on the point, Mr. Chair, that he raised about soil, topsoil, any kind of soil somehow reaching the Minnesota River, is that a concern that can be dealt with?
Well, it's always going to be a concern, I think, no matter how you do it. I guess you could also say that we're taking the dirt out of the ditch so that it doesn't get washed down there. So I'm sure digging in the ditch is going to disturb some, but also leaving it in there is going to continue washing it down.
Sure.
So we're going to take the dirt out and try to minimize the amount of soil runoff as we can.
Thank you. Other questions? Terry first and then Denny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nate, there are a number of heights of water on this map. Was it measured all about the same time?
Same day.
And was it right after heavy rain?
No, I believe it was last week. So no, there was
So
no
in some places we have
significant-
almost 3 feet of water.
Right, and
4
that
feet.
that just tells you that the section of ditch in between there has approximately 3 feet of dirt in it, and it could vary. Some areas you can see here have more and less, and it just depends what's going on in that specific location. But usually measuring culvert water depths gives you a good indication of what type of dirt you got between those stretches.
Sure. So if I could, I heard someone mention the 4 feet. The 4 feet's on a branch, isn't it? Right in the middle there?
Yes.
Would that get addressed?
Yep, that's why I included that here.
Okay.
That one's exceptionally bad, and I spoke with that landowner in years past, and he wanted to do a project, but he never did, and now we got the opportunity, so I'm gonna include it, since we're coming through with the equipment.
Denny?
Thank you.
You said that there was a 3-year spread. You said 2006 was the main ditch cleaning, was the last one you have record of?
Yeah, yep.
And so then the subsequent 2007, 2008 were branches as a result, pretty much a repeat, or you're proposing a repeat of what we did 14 to 15 years ago.
Yeah, similar, yep. And once you get the main line cleaned out and you see your branch isn't cleaning, well, then people are gonna want that done, so.
Right, okay.
We'll see what happens next year, maybe.
But those
people-
would be separate actions.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? So, are we looking for a motion? about-
I think you didn't close the public
Yeah.
hearing.
Oh, sorry.
That's right.
Am I right?
You are correct.
Okay.
Anybody else want to talk before we close the public hearing? Okay, public hearing is closed. Okay,
Mr. Chair, could Nate make his recommendation on this 38?
certainly.
My recommendation would be that you approve the ditch cleanout as proposed on the map that was provided before the meeting.
Mr. Chair, just a procedural question if I might. So we have 2 pages of, I think, petition or repair requests. One's dated the 13th and one's dated the 10th. It's for the same project, just different people.
Yeah, I like to do that because one group of landowners petitions for one area and another group might petition for another area, so it doesn't confuse who's supporting what project or who's,
So we have at least 7 people who are petitioning to
right.
do it.
Yep.
So where does this water flow, Nate, when it's all done?
This flows into JD 1A, which is essentially Rush River.
Okay,
Mr. Chair?
yes.
Nate, on the repair request 810, there's a reference to CD 30A and 19. Are we all just in 30, and we're only talking about cleaning 30A, correct?
Yep, we're only doing ditch 30A. The landowner was confused on the map. It shows branch 19. So they just wanted to make sure
Okay.
we did that branch.
Thank you.
More questions for Nate?
Yeah, can we just note that that's branch 19? I just want to make sure that we've noticed it.
Yeah. Excellent.
Madam County Attorney, procedurally, do we address these separately?
It would be my recommendation that you, well, I think you can make a motion to clean
Encompass both of the petitions?
for 30A in one motion, correct?
I would make that motion to authorize the repair requests as indicated and follow the recommendation of Nate in the cleaning. I should say the repair. I guess technically it's repair.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and a second, any other discussion?
Could I have just ask
Yeah.
Marie a question? Where, because you sit on that Rush River group, don't you? Any ongoing issues there? Do we have further downstream issues with that, or?
Not at this point, because that's all gonna get worked into that one water, one plan.
That's why I was wondering, so, okay.
There'll be additional monitoring once
Right.
that happens.
So the whole issue of, and I heard the question of the sediment, but theoretically, this is to improve the flow and minimize the sediment in the long haul, right?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Passes. We are done with 30A. Okay, now, County Ditch 24, it's a continuation.
Yep, so I'll kind of recap what was decided at the last meeting and what I have done here. When we continued that hearing, I was supposed to go get 3 options, one for cleaning the entire ditch, one for cleaning a portion of it, and one for repairing a couple ditch bank slides. Come back with a price for each. I've spent some time out there inspecting the ditch and also doing some survey work with the engineering GPS equipment to find out water levels and dirt levels throughout the system. And I've also provided a map with comments on that, and you can see that. So the first option for cleaning the entire system is approximately $43,000. Option number 2 for cleaning the smaller section to the petitioner's outlet. That's $25,000 approximately. And I was also to look into a cost for repairing the ditch crossing to the west of the Lance building site, and that estimate is approximately $6,000. I wasn't able to put together an estimate for removing only the slides and repairing the crossing because after surveying the ditch and we took elevation readings of these slides, there was no evident location where the slide ended and the regular ditch started. So in order to come up with an estimate, I need to know what's the distance we're going to clean out, or how big is the slide, and there's no easy way to pick here it starts and here it stops, because the survey revealed there's a pretty steady amount from 1 to 3 feet of dirt from the end of the ditch to the top of the ditch. So it's really impossible to put together a price on just scooping out a few slides when essentially the slide goes on the whole length of the ditch. So the 2 real options we have is option 1 and option 2, cleaning the whole ditch and a portion of it. And a couple other things to keep in mind through this one, because I know there's some larger widths of CRP, would be if the CRP is damaged, there could be additional cost to reseed it and repair it. I try to encourage landowners to repair their section of grass strip if they're able to. Otherwise, if I have to hire it, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Some people are able to, some don't have the equipment. And there's a few areas in this ditch that have trees growing in them, which, if approved to clean the ditch, we'd cut them off and remove them, and landowner could burn them or bury them or dispose of them how they want. So that's my update on ditch 24, and I think Jackie might have an email or a letter to read that she was provided for that as well.
I just have a question for clarity for myself first. The option 1 and option 2, both of them included the crossing repair or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so,
And what was the dollars again on that?
so 43K for the whole ditch, 25K up to the crossing plus the crossing fix, or is it?
25,000 would get you from Timber Lane down to that private ditch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
With the crossing?
The crossing is an additional 6,000 for each option.
Oh, then,
Oh, okay, that's the part I was trying to clarify.
So 43 plus 6 for
so
the
it's 49 or 31 if
Right,
you include
okay.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Got it.
So Nate, there's 48 inches of separation in that pipe. Do I read that correctly? Right at the.
It's a separated 48-inch concrete pipe.
Thank you. Thanks.
There's two other crossings further downstream in section 15 that are separated, but I don't think they're being used by farm equipment, and they're not in near the condition of this one. So,
This one's getting all the load of it.
well, this one's really deteriorating.
Okay.
And that crossing is the crossing you showed me.
Yep.
More questions for Nate before we open public? Yes, public comment? Anyone want to comment on this? Yes, come on up. Name, address, and concern.
Well, my name is Mike Johnson, and I live on 486th Street. And so my ditch would be that blue one on number 2, option number 2. And we've had that RCRP buffer. I mean, that's been there for 20 years, I think. And there's always been water standing in the bottom of that ditch, as long as I can remember. So I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference.
Okay, questions, gentlemen? Anybody?
And at
You have any else? Go ahead.
my part of the drainage ditch, I mean, it's at the end. And like I said, as long as I can always remember, there was always water standing in that ditch. It's not, so I don't know how much it's gonna help, I don't know.
But the more water that's standing, the bigger chance it's gonna start caving in.
Mr. Chair, we'll
Yes.
probably ask Nate a couple questions
Yes,
after the
yes.
public hearing part.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I think Jackie had some letters.
Jackie, okay.
I received an email comment from Steve Michaels, and his address is 39857 506th Street, North Mankato. And he writes, upon learning the estimate cost to clean the whole ditch, 24A, plus repair to the bridge, I believe this to be the best option. Since the last meeting, I learned the ditch has more issues than I thought. If we just cleaned the north-south main, I probably would not benefit, but would still have to pay, plus the rest of the ditch would probably need cleaning in just a few years. So I would be in favor of cleaning the whole ditch, 24A, at this time. Respectfully, Steve Michaels.
Thank you. Close the public hearing.
Nobody else?
Anybody else? Nate, we have some questions, I guess? Terry?
Well, Nate, I think we can provide just a general response maybe about the standing water in the ditch. I don't know. I know you said last time when this ditch had been cleaned last?
Right, so the last time, this ditch was cleaned was in 1991, and the parcel that, the individual is talking about is in the, it's the north side of section 21 where it says 3 feet of dirt in the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Dirt?
Yeah, I was able
right.
to walk down in the bottom of the ditch and take a survey rod and stand on dry ground and shove it through to the bottom, and there's 3 feet of dirt in there, so it's no surprise there's standing water there. I'd expect it. So,
And by dirt, you mean silt.
silt, yeah.
Okay. So I think, my opinion is the gentleman is probably right, that if we do this twice, it's gonna cost a lot more money than if we do it once.
And it's been 30 years.
The only other, correct me, I'm sorry.
No,
May-
go ahead,
may-
Derek.
The only other work, to my recollection, was the tree removal that was done like 4 years ago. Does that sound about right? Or
Yeah,
am I-
about 4 years ago is when we
less,
approved it.
Maybe a little less, okay. But at that time, this was discussed and the cleaning
Was voted to deny.
was voted to deny, all right. Okay.
Anybody else for Nate? Is there a motion? Or more questions of someone?
Mr. Chair, I move we clean the entire system as presented.
Second.
Motion and second, any more discussion?
So we're talking about option 1, Marie,
Option 1. And the bridge
and the bridge.
Including the bridge.
crossing fix.
Crossing, yeah. Thank you, any more discussion? All in favor?
All right,
Opposed? Passes.
thanks, Nate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're gonna ask the non-commissioners and staff to leave, because we got a closed hearing coming up.
You need to read that.
It's in bold.
Where's that?
That's right. Here's number 4.
Okay. This portion of the meeting is closed for attorney-client privilege pursuant to Minnesota statute, chapter 13D, to discuss litigation regarding the improvement project on Nicollet County Ditch 62A. Okay. Which is, reopen the Drainage Authority meeting, and
Mr. Chair, I'd move to adjourn.